Good afternoon. End of day one, nearing the end of day one. How's everyone feeling? Put up your hands if you want to go home. Oh, we're all here. Come on, that's it. Beautiful. Okay, we've got a wonderful panel coming up, and I'd like to introduce the panelists very quickly. We're a little bit behind time. First of all, I'd like you to welcome with rapturous applause to the stage, please, Graziella Thake. She is the CEO of Optimization Hub, chairwoman of EMIC, which deals with mental health in esports. Please, round of applause. There we go. Next up, the wonderful Valery Lorenz. She's the head of investments for Venivia, coming out of Switzerland. You can please applause. There we go. Thank you very much. Welcome, Valery. Next up is Talal Tabet, who is the founder and vice chairman of the Music World Cup. Tal, are you around? Tal? Is he here? Not here? Tal, he's a great guy. You should all meet up with him. But he's not here on the panel today. So we're going to move straight on to Abdulla al-Dhaheri, who is IT security and network expert. He's an OSCP certified ethical hacker and a certified blockchain developer. Abdulla, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
So we'll dive straight into Graziella. Is your microphone working?
I think my microphone's working. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Fantastic.
Only one person could hear you. That's fine. I will start actually with Valery with a question. We're talking about Metaverse. The title is Metaverse versus reality, and we're on the cusp of major disruption now, or we believe we are. We don't really know how it's going to pan out. You're an investor, you're head of investments. Where do you see the big upside? What do you think are the sectors that are really going to benefit from this new development that we call the Metaverse?
Well, I mean, if we think about Metaverse or Web3 or everything what is backed up with the blockchain, I think everything what brings us value or sustainability still in our real world will last and will have an upside potential. Like still everything what is backed up with the real world, like stuff what is only digital is like high speculative. Of course, like high risk, high return, but as you mentioned, we don't even know like how the metaverse is going to evolve. Like, will it be one big metaverse, like Zuckerberg's vision, where socialized business stuff will happen? Or will it be several small metaverses, and I will assume that will happen most likely, which going to be addressed to certain topics. So this really depends like where this trend is going, and we can't say like how it's going to evolve.
So given that, and I'm an investor as well, and we just don't know so much about this. Does that mean you're holding your investment? You're not deploying capital at the moment in the metaverse?
Well, I mean, as you said, like even if you ask somebody and like real tech guys, what is the correct definition of a metaverse, they can't really give you an answer, right? And if I talk to my investors, I mean, some of them are super familiar with the topic. They fly around as a bird or as a mermaid, swim around in the metaverse, and otherwise just have like a brief idea about it. So, and this is also the upward potential and the advantage that we are having. I mean, for us it's super common to talk about the metaverse and Web3, but I would assume we can count us to the 5 to 10% of the world's population who at least assume that we're going to know how it is going to evolve. And this brings us a huge advantage of it.
For sure, absolutely. But those numbers are only going to increase for sure. But with every investment opportunity, there's also risk. I'm not talking here about investment risk. I wanted to talk about the risks that are starting to be well documented and the worries about what the metaverse can open up. Of course, we think this is a fantastic opportunity, but how do we manage it? Can you, Graziella, this is a question for you. Can you think about the specific risks and tell the audience here what you see as the major risks, and and more important than that, is how do we solve them?
Well, everybody wants to know how you solve a risk. I mean, our entire business is all about how we optimize performance past risk. There's an explosion of human capability going on at the moment. So everything we've heard in the conference today is all about how human beings can go and populate space, they can increase our living on the planet, be more sustainable. The metaverse poses a really interesting reality for all of us. Now, all of us who have businesses, children, who are thinking about the next 10 years, we have to start thinking about super advanced technology. And super advanced technology puts us in a place where we're not only using our social environment here in reality, but we're also using the meta-reality, which is going into augmented reality. And I've super enjoyed it. I'm 52 years old now, and I remember at 14 looking at Star Wars thinking, wow, I wonder what that's going to feel like. Well, now I know what that feels like. I've been into the metaverse, been into that reality. But here's the thing, everyone. When you go into that reality, you can turn it into a dark reality as much as you can turn Mars into another Earth. The one thing we have to do is de-risk anything. Just like you de-risk an investment, you have to think about the human potential. So human beings are going into a super capable world. How have we de-risked their transitional resilience? Their ability to go between now and reality, to go to the metaverse, and then from the metaverse back to reality. But in the metaverse, there is the opportunity for us to hijack somebody's identity. I don't know if anybody's ever had their identity hijacked on social media, or perhaps someone has had someone say something that they don't actually know. In the metaverse, your identity can get hijacked. So we have to think about that. Now, the wonderful thing about the UAE, and also about the wonderful thing about His Excellency and talking about human to human, is you have an end target here in the UAE. You're saying that in 2040 we're going to have this amazing advanced world. We know what we're aiming for. So in doing that, we have to de-risk it. To de-risk that, we have to train the human potential to be able to work with this explosive world of reality. Now, to do that, we can use the metaverse positively, but for savvy investors, for those involved in using training, even for, looking at psychosis training, or the advancement of how we can, as human potential, use augmented reality to even have limbs and arms and bring back sensory capacity, we have to think about how we build one identity with one behavioral blueprint. Now, that's going to safeguard us. That technology has to be taken care of as we advance, because the reality is the metaverse is here and now. So we have to safely transition between the two. We have to think about identity hijacking. We have to think about the end game and backwards plan, just like we do with investment, business, technology, finance.
That's fascinating, absolutely.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back because you took my panel, I took it originally, and then you took it back. And you've done a wonderful job, Daniel.
She was talking,
She
was talking about hijacking identities. I hijacked the moderation.
I had to get the camera, so this is the thing. But
welcome, Miguel, to the panel.
Thank you so much.
How you doing?
Miguel Francis-Santiago.
Let's welcome Mr. Miguel.
The latecomer.
A round of applause for Miguel, please.
Shukram. Thank you. But that was really interesting what you just mentioned, Graziella, in terms of hijacking the identity crisis that we're already having in terms of the fraud and what Web 2 kind of gave us. How are we going to take care of that in Web 3? But moreover, and please chip in who feels more relatable to this issue, how do we make the metaverse work for us in terms of actually embedding the human capacity, both physical and mental? Because the whole meta industry, I think, really goes well with the SDG goals in terms of reducing the carbon footprint of humanity, because it puts you in front of your computer in this post-COVID world. But what if we were to think of ways how we can incite humanity through the meta and the Web3 technology here to actually create incentives for human beings to better themselves through this meta experience of connectivity in terms of elevating your health, sound healing, yoga, etc., having access to a whole array of professionals in this field, and then actually getting paid to live, kind of live to earn, getting paid to better yourself physically and emotionally. How do we, where's the line between the digital experience and how far do we want to put people into this digital world?
I can say about that a little bit is that sooner or later we have to transmit or transition into technology. Whether humans like it or not, we have to transit into that thing because technology is evolving, as everybody knows, and this is something big we have. Also, Mr. Adnan said something very special today in the morning, that zero, what's zero and the power of zero? Zero and the power of zero is equal 1. And in the United Arab Emirates, we always like to be number 1. That's why the Dubai government announced to have the first government entity to be on the Metaverse. And when they did showcase study on that, the Director General of the Dubai municipality announced that they will be generating 800 billion of revenue from the Metaverse itself. So transmitting into that, it's something very big, something I agree with what you said about to de-risk those things, but it has to happen.
I can chip in there again too. I think it's fairly important to acknowledge exactly what you said there, and I think it's so essential. But I think that what we also need to do is appreciate that it's always a plan that's going to de-risk everything. And human beings and human potential are exploding right now. So in order for us to build out anything, we have to backwards plan. And the interaction between the two, as you've correctly pointed out, is going to enable us to both extend our human capability, to be able to develop, you know, some types of healing, even for other things such as the psychoses, or the augmented reality will also enable us to retrain ourselves in certain ways. But it's all about how we avoid the darker side of that. And we've got so many great edutainment examples of how we can slip into that. So we just have to make sure that we're taking those steps before it happens.
And as far as reality versus the metaverse, in terms of in the real world, we can take our gains, our trophies, our money with us anywhere we want to go, right? And especially with the coming of crypto in the real world, right now we can take our value intercontinentally with frictionless capability. In terms of the metaverse, since we're in such baby steps, who here can contribute to this question in terms of interoperability? How can we achieve interoperability between chains, between metaverses, to actually be able to carry something that we worked and put our time and our life in one metaverse and take it with us to the next? Perhaps Daniel.
So before thinking about how we can actually get to much wider interoperability, Valery, you said it before as well. You said, is it going to be one interoperable metaverse, or is it going to be lots of mini metaverses that maybe are not interoperable between them? And I think what will decide that ultimately is the value and the impact that is required or is needed by having the metaverse. Yeah, I don't think it's 0 to 100 in one go. I think that in every business, you see what people need, what they use. I would even question how important is it that we own our virtual assets. You know, I think we say, oh, we must own our virtual assets. Do we need to own all our virtual assets? I think that if we need to own our virtual assets and the limitations around that from a cybersecurity perspective, from building interoperable chains, if that reduces our ability to actually use those assets, if it reduces the user experience, then people aren't going to want that at all. They'll be happy to not own those virtual assets. Depends which. Obviously, I'm not talking about getting your identification hijacked here. So I think that first of all, we've got to once again realize that we just simply don't know at the moment. And as things get built out, I totally agree with what Valery said, that there will be many metaverses, mini metaverses, rather than one. And then maybe we'll get into more interoperability as we learn the value out of that interoperability. How to do it at this early stage, I'll pass that over to someone more technical, and I think that's Abdulla.
To do it on the early stage from a technical side is that, first of all, we need to de-risk, and we need to look at the cybersecurity perspective. It is hackable, not hackable. I am always with her, and I will always support her with the risk management. Because as a cybersecurity specialist, we need to look at that ways. People were saying that NFTs They are unhackable, unbreachable, but identity wallets are being stolen. As we saw, we had the incident with a big project a while ago. So we need to have risk management, first of all. We need to do an assessment about this. As you said also, Miguel, we need to take baby steps. To enter this kind of technology, we need to take baby steps to implement it. And also, we need to try. As when we try to do penetration testing, we do it in a virtual environment. So let's make this our virtual environment to try new things. Let's make this, I heard in Japan and in the UK that they're going to start putting football games on the metaverse itself, wearing the VR and it's like in front of you. So this is something new we would like to try, and hopefully big things will come out of it.
Well, with the rich history of the Emirati people and how the land that we're in right now interacted with its environment, to have such profound respect for it, from the fishing to camel work to falcon work to then oil and being on the world stage shoulder to shoulder with the global powers, and now surpassing the hub of innovation, making it the hub of innovation here in Dubai and really the UAE, paving the way for the future. What sort of use cases do you see potentially? Let's look into the future, as the futures that we are here in the capital of the future. What sort of use cases do we see potentially being enabled here in Dubai, and would be able to be enabled here in Dubai in terms of the Meta AR VR experience? What new features can we bring to the table from here and here?
I think we need to turn over to our most learned colleague for this, but I know we've got 30 seconds left. I think what we have to basically say is maybe turning it over to the audience who have had a big long day to go home and to really think about what do you want out of reality and the new reality, which is going to be augmented in your world. And then here in the UAE, the options and possibilities with 35 universities, with extensive knowledge, with innovation hubs, with a government that's willing to openly plan and make things happen, I think the possibilities are endless. It's exciting. I want to be here.
It's going.
Mashallah.
It's going, and to add on that, just a quick up, and I think like what you said, it's something very supportive, and I think Hamid al-Blushi will agree with me. The most important, exciting thing that what you will get out of this technology is investment in the youth. As they invested into us, and we will invest in future generations, this is where new technologies come. 10 years ago, nobody heard about blockchain or metaverse or anything. It was something new. 10 years later, we will not hear about new technologies, and hopefully we will create something new. And thank you.
Abdulla, Daniel, Valery, Graziella, thank you so much. Metaverse versus reality. Thank you, brother.
Okay. Thank you. Great panel. Great statement. Great class statement.